Last week we talked about this new king that has come into Israel. His name is Ahab, and he's a messed up dude, to say the least. This was in 1 Kings 16, verses 29 and onward. Sorry about that. More or less a synopsis. If you didn't get to read that section, I would recommend pausing maybe and like reading some scripture. That could be like good to spiritual growth. But if you're somewhere and you're not able to, the more or less the synopsis is this: he does a lot of bad. He sets up altars to Baal, to false idols gods, and he sacrifices essentially the future for his children for the sake of worshiping these false idols. So things are just really bad in the kingdom. Ahab is going to serve for 22 years. It's much longer than the several previous kings. And Elijah is this messenger of God, this prophet that is living in Israel and around Israel at the time, and speaking on what God is doing and on God's behalf, and is his messenger and his acting tool essentially in the land. And Elijah goes to Ahab, the king of the country, and he has to confront him. And God's commanding Elijah to do this, and it's like, you will go confront the king. And it doesn't really get into any specifics of Elijah's dialogue with God about this, but I can only imagine that it's terrifying. I kind of get anxious going just to a colleague at my workplace and being like, hey, I disagree with a little bit of this. I can't imagine going to the leader of a nation that is an unlimited government, a king ruling over and having this kind of control. I would have a very difficult time. But Elijah goes, and he doesn't just say that like, God is here and he's going to judge you for your bad things, bad Ahab. He pretty much, God commands him to say, there's going to be a really bad drought, Ahab, and it's going to last until I say so. So until God gives Elijah the presence and power and position because of his submission, and not because of anything Elijah has, but because Elijah is willing to be used, has been put in a place of so much influence that Elijah can specify when it will rain next. And that's crazy. This location we're talking about is in the Middle East, modern day Holy Land, Israel, Palestine, I'm sure Syria, Jordan, Lebanon. This whole region can be very fertile at times, but it can also be very, very parched and dry. And so we're entering into that season, and God is facilitating Elijah, essentially his messenger, his tool, to be the author of when it should rain next. And I want you to realize it's not just that, but he's going into the king of this whole empire and telling him, yeah, you're going to suffer until I say so. I really don't know the details of that, but what kind of courage and confidence that took is a courage and confidence I'm still trying to find and grow into. I am but a human, a tool, but at the same time I realize that Elijah was too, that his faith was so immense and so powerful to God, and it was his whole being, essentially, his whole part. But he was a human. He lived before Christ died. And here I am on this side of things with the truth of salvation and resurrection. And what am I doing about all that? I know how the story ends. I know where I'm going to be. And why am I so hesitant? And why am I not brave enough? Doesn't mean I need to go around and just beat people over the head with my faith, but to love them intentionally. And it's something I really want to invest in throughout this series. It's going to take quite a chunk of time, but not just to read the scriptures, but to live out just the love and compassion on others. Don't necessarily go to someone as Elijah and be like, hey, it's not going to rain for a while until I say so. Because, unless God's giving you a word, but love people, because the new message of Christ is not new. It's the same old same. Love others, show compassion. So as we go into this, be brave, be bold, to stand in front of the might of potentially the most powerful person you can think of, and tell them the truth that God has given you. Even if consequences can happen, it's still worth it, and it's worth everything. Have a great week. Be bold and love in ways you've never comprehended before.